Alrighty, hello everyone. Sorry for starting late. I just realized somewhere partway in there that I probably didn't have enough disk space to actually record anything. Fingers crossed that I don't run out tonight. Anyway, my name is Savani. Welcome back to Coding Together, this, or whatever I'm going to call this thing. This is the second episode. I am currently recording. I'll post to YouTube afterwards. If you have any comments, feel free to drop them into the chat or just drop a message on the YouTube video once it's posted. Tonight, since we have just a few days before Advent of Code begins, I'm going to show you how I set up for Advent of Code, although I'm actually going to change it a little bit this year. Not a huge amount, just structuring things a little bit differently. If you are not familiar, just bring that up. Advent of Code is an annual Christmas-themed series of programming challenges. And of course, showing you this year, not really any good. I'll show you a previous year. We'll say, as soon as I remember how. Well, let's log in and try that. GitHub. There we go. It remembers me now. That's not it. I don't know how to get to things. How do I see previous years? No stats, setting, shop, events. Here we go. Okay. So this is last year's. I participated. I usually burn out about halfway through. So as you can see, I got like all the way through day 14, but basically every day you get a series of 2 challenges. You'll first get one of them in which you're given some sample data sets to test on, but then there is a full data set. Where's this one posted? Here we go. Okay. So the full data set is like a puzzle input. It's effectively just one single file where every single line is relevant. So there's usually not much in the way of sophisticated parsing. It's just line by line parsing. But you will feed that file in, and you're asked to run through that file, generate a result, which is always like a very short, usually just a number, and then just literally type it in right here. As I'll show you one that I haven't actually done. Day 15. So I haven't done either of these, but this is kind of how it starts out. Like, here's the description, there's an example set, there's even a like, this is the result that you should get on this example set, and then you can get the puzzle input, which is always significantly larger than the example set. Sometimes it's straight up made to try to flush out any bugs in the program and test all of the edge cases. And then you just enter, once you've run the program, you enter the number. So the way I typically do this is, well, we'll get to that in just a moment. First, this time I actually went ahead and just took the liberty of going ahead and doing a little bit of setup. I am not making the mistake of trying to write a Nix flake tonight. We saw last week that I tend to make mistakes, do a lot of typos. So basically I just copied this from another one of my projects. If you're interested in it, I can share a link. Actually, I'll just go ahead and share a link to a project that has, maybe this one. Maybe I'll just go ahead and post this. So I'll share it on the YouTube channel. But the problems are all simple enough that really you only need Rust. So that part of the environment is already set up. I'm going to go ahead and init the repository. Do I add dir-env? No, I don't. There we go. Okay, so for this year, got two things that I'm going to work on. We got the problems, and then we've got a challenge, which I'll talk about more if there's enough time to get to that in this stream. We're going to start out with the problems. I'll do a cargo init. Yeah, whatever. Okay, cool. As always happens, we end up with a main.rs. We're basically going to ignore this. In the past, I've usually gone with a main.rs and then imported a module that contained all of the stuff for the day. And then on the command line, I would type in like cargo run day 12A or something. But instead this year, since I have learned about the bin directory that can appear here, I think it might just be easiest to create the challenges as individual applications. Refresh that bin, cool. So let's start out. Oh wait, maybe this doesn't work. Just realized that one of the entire things that I want to do is to have most of the boilerplate code in a library or a module or a crate or whatever. Okay, yeah, change of plan. I'm gonna stick to main.rs this year. Okay. So in this case, what I want to do now is to be able to run each day as, actually, probably do as a watch. Cargo watch -x run day 1A. Not a cargo project because I'm in the wrong directory. Cool. Basically nothing there. So I'm just going to start by pulling in, I'm trying to remember the environment variables. Not environment variables, command line parameters. Almost perfect. Can I just take that? I don't think that works. Okay, yep, I have to give up. Grab the documentation. So we got the list of args, and I just want to grab the very first one. Args is something vaguely sort of like it. Oh, it is an iterator. And can I just grab next? Yep, okay, great. So it's going to be, and then match day against, I mean, if it's none, actually, we'll go with some, day 1A, day 1A, or day 1, run 1. And we'll just add 1B. Now, of course, neither of these exists yet. We're going to do That should have worked. I'm expecting day to be a string. And so I'm expecting a string found a stir. What is it complaining about here? This is one of those cases where it's like, have I forgotten the most basic of Rust syntax? Oh, that's what it is. Right. Can't call a function in the middle of a match statement. This probably might work. Much better. Okay, cool. So this is my top level dispatcher. Just every day I'll go in and add some more things. We'll go ahead and stub out day 1. So use day 1. Actually, it's not use. It's going to be mod. Okay, so every day I want to just automatically handle the parsing of the individual lines, and I want the function that runs the challenge to just return a string. That's all we want. So I'm not going to get fancy. It would be fun to get fancy and just make that an iterator. Oh, why not make that an iterator? Impl iterator item equals string. Do I really have to do this? Creating a lib file? I think I might. No, don't need it. Yes, I do. Oh. So, to solve this, I'm just going to look at last year. Huh, how did I set that up? I just do the imports. I've got all of the days. Mod day 1. Oh. I have no idea what mistake I just made. So split it. Want to open. Got it. Problems. Source. day1.rs. Okay, so Rust Analyzer just hasn't caught up. There we go. All of those errors are done. Should have plenty more. Like part 1. First of all, it's a private function still, needs to return a string, needs to be given a string. Oh yeah, okay. Not actually going to give it the string. I will, however, create a utility function. Okay, so when doing these challenges, I never want to be bothered with all of the details of like opening a file, reading the data or reading to the end of the file and then parsing it. So instead, what I actually do is I actually use a macro to just compile the input data directly into the file. So part1 is a string which equals include stir, and we'll call it from day1a.txt. And that immediately gives me, of course, an error because that file didn't exist yet. Okay. Looks like the compiler wants this to be a reference to a string, though. Okay. Okay, there we go. And then the utility function that actually handles parsing it, just so we, well, there's not even a utility function to parse it because there we go. That's just it. The lines function returns an iterator, which already has all of the lines split out at the end of line. So if you have data, we'll just grab example data from this one. Let's see here. This is the example input data, so I will copy it. Okay, part1 is still a private function. We'll fill in part2 just so that more things will compile. And I have to actually return the values. 4 years, 5 years of doing Rust, and I still put semicolons at the end of my functions. Cool. Gotta change headsets though. This one has run out of power. Give me just a moment. Fun problem with Linux is always dealing with Bluetooth stuff. See if that connected correctly. Perfect. Okay. It's actually relatively painless today. Okay, cool. So anyway, basically the setup ends up like this. Just have two functions for part1 and part2. Import the data, just directly or statically import or statically compile the data in. so that I'm not dealing with any disk I/O when the program runs, and then immediately just call the lines function on the data. Usually the problems use exactly the same data set for parts A and B, so I don't actually have to do like day1a.txt and day1b.txt, but I usually tend to just in case. I really like to just slowly build up templates. In any case, I am now returning a value. I need to, as soon as that value comes back, I need to actually do something with it. So I will just capture it. So we'll print out the day name and then the results. And this was the wrong thing to do here, so we'll actually, I think I'll panic. I'm getting close. Oh, the day was borrowed before the move. Yeah, still having trouble with the references. Returns reference to data owned by the current function. I think, though, that there's a function on the option struct that will give this to me. Okay, yeah. I actually want to call asref on option because it will give me an option with a reference to the data. Okay. Do sufficient dereference or reference taking, and Rust finally works correctly. Now, we're still hitting the unrecognized day. Did I do something interesting? That actually should work. Oh, I know what it's going to be. It's going to be, I think I'm actually extracting the name of the first parameter, or the name of the application. Yeah, that's what's happening. Okay. Drop one. Drop one doesn't work. Skip one. Too many languages running around in my head. It's actually, if we were programming in Haskell, it would be drop one to skip over the first element of an iterator. But this is Rust. They named it differently. Makes sense given that drop has some very different connotations in Rust. But as you can see, we're now iterating over the list of the data set, and then printing out the actual result, which in this case is just no response. So if I were to actually try to solve just the example problem from day one of last year, grab this again. So, right. The submarine is sinking, the elves dropped, or no, it's not that the submarine is sinking, the elves dropped the key to something off the ship. So you have to descend down and then run along the bottom of the ocean floor. And not producing this report, the number of times a depth measurement increases from the previous measurement. So if you're iterating over the data, this is what you should understand, but what you're actually counting is the number of places where the depth goes up. So let's just do that right quick, because that might be a fun way to just do some things. So instead of printing the lines, lines dot map dot, we know that every line is going to be a number. We don't really have to deal with errors with input errors in this challenge, because basically the author just guarantees that he's always going to be providing valid data. So let's parse this into an I-32. We'll just keep it simple. And take that away, because we're not going to print it anymore, because we're going to consume the iterator here. And then I want to collect the results. Value cannot be built over. Okay, fine. There we go. And this is a case where this syntax is a little easier. Great. So now we want to do a pairwise comparison. I mean, the most obvious way to do this, for I in 1 dot dot, or we'll skip over the first element. Okay, this isn't necessarily the most obvious way. This is a very C-like way of doing things. We'll go back in a few moments, and I'll demonstrate the way that probably, if you already know Rust, is how you're maybe screaming at me, why are you doing it this way? There's this other way that's much easier, but we're going to start with this. Depths.len -1. If depth bracket I is greater than depths bracket 0, so just iterate over, skipping the first element in the iterator and going all the way to the end. We compare the current depth against the previous one, and then each time that the current depth is greater than the previous one, we increase, or we count it, for lack of a better word. And here we go. Format. Of course, I said that as though it's easy. Let's find out if I actually got it right. Nope. I got a 6. Okay, that's great. Instead of debugging this, what I'm actually going to do is just kind of move this out of the way. We're going to solve it the way that probably most Rust veterans would do. First, by grabbing an iterator of the array, then grabbing an iterator of the array skipping the first element. Skip 1. And now depth a.zip depths b, which should give a pairwise set. And just to prove that, not really to prove it, just to make sure that I actually have done the correct thing, we will quickly run over that iterator and just verify that, in fact, I did. Okay, yeah. These are the pairs, the first element and the second element and the third, and so forth. So really, let's now go over the list, or go over the whole iterator, and we're going to fold it. And start with the value of 0, current. I'll stick with A and B, the extremely descriptive values. So we're going to fold over the entire thing. If A is greater than B, then we're going to return current plus 1, or we're just going to return current again. So current doesn't change. And the result is 2. That is obviously very wrong. So the advantage of having done it this way is that I can start putting debugging information right into the middle. So 100 or 199 is definitely not greater than 200. 200 is definitely not greater than 208. Huh. What's going on here? I probably misunderstood. So we go from 199 to 200. Oh. There we go. You have to ignore the text in this case, but in point of fact, A is measurement 1, B is measurement 2. If B is greater than A, then the depth is increased. So anyway, there we go. I have demonstrated that, in fact, it probably took me a good 20 minutes to solve this problem last year. In any case, that's kind of how it goes the entire time. I found, or through the entire challenge, I found that this particular format of include the entire string directly compiled in, have a function that just returns a string, immediately just call the lines function on that string and then run from there, and then print the result of the function from main. It really just kind of solves a lot of boilerplate issues. And so this is how I'm going to be doing it this year. I will commit this. In fact, I'll go ahead and commit it now, even though obviously it is not the right data set for this year, because that won't be released until December 1st. Wait a second. Oh, stray file. Oh, whoa. Hold up. Yeah. Always be sure to ignore the target directory in a Rust project. Cool. Okay. So having done that setup, I'm going to go look at the challenges directory. This is not actually about solving challenges for Advent of Code. This is about, this is a little project that I want to do to be able to just grab a leaderboard, because if we go to, we'll just go to, I don't remember. There is a leaderboard API. Go to this one. View. Looking at 2021. Here we go. So it's only available for a private leaderboard. And what I'm wanting to do is issue a challenge to another team at work. So I want to grab the API. There's instructions here for it. Please don't make frequent requests. For myself, for my purposes, I'm basically going to make a request every hour. The idea behind this is for everybody who's on the leaderboard, I know who's on the various teams at work. I'll create a private leaderboard that I will keep updated at work, which shows which team is ahead and which team is behind and what all of our scores are. And I'll use just understanding who's on which team to split it out. So the JSON API, I have no idea what the schema is here. So I'll just kind of figure it out from what's here. So I've got a fresh directory. Let's init a project here. I'm going to immediately add request, which is the most common HTTP client library in Rust. And it's actually spelled R-E-Q-W-E-S-T, not the what you would expect for doing a request. I'll just grab version 0.11 and then go into this one. Cool. So I'm going to use request, then let client equals actually it's so no, I need to actually be able to modify the request a little bit. So I'll create a client, and then let request equals client dot request. There's a request builder. Go to this one, copy that. And I just remembered that, right, this should have been obvious. The request library by default is an async library. I don't really want to... No, it's actually very easy to include. So Rust or crates.io, we'll hit Tokyo. And that's the only thing I need to do. probably something very broken happening. So whenever Rust Analyzer gets messed up, I just leave and come back. Just waiting for things to get installed here. Okay, cool. Should be good now. Okay. Got Tokyo. I've got request. Check the API parameters. So can get the JSON for a private leaderboard. If you do this from a script, you'll have to provide your session cookie. A fresh cookie lasts for about a month. I got to figure out how to grab the session cookie. Okay, I'm going to take this off screen for a moment because there might actually be some sensitive information that will appear in my browser now as I go digging through cookies here. Oh, that was easier than I expected. Okay, well, I'm going to copy this. And I'm just going to add it as an environment variable, but obviously I'm not going to show you that. Alrighty. Good. Clear the screen. So this will now be where I run commands. Gotta remember how to request an environment variable. Vars. Over a snapshot of the environment variables in this process. So, So this is going to be an iterator. Not exactly the... Oh, wait. Find map. Oh, okay. Okay. So I can call find map on here. So first of all, how do I get the vars? env vars. Okay. I can call find map, and I named my cookie just... Oh. Key value, it's going to iterate over every environment variable until it finds the one which matches, well, the one in which this particular function that I'm writing for find map returns true. And I think I named it session cookie. It's not okay with that. Find map has to return an option. F takes an item. Item is a string. Okay, so it will just return anything that I tell it to return. So if key is session cookie, return value, or return some value, else no, none. I don't need to return here. I just need to call some value. All right. So theoretically, I'll have the session key in memory now. I don't know for sure that I've done that right. Basically, the only proof will be if I successfully make a request, but I have to figure out how to attach that token to a cookie using the API, which the automatic storing and sending of cookies can be enabled with the cookie store method on client builder. Let's look at the cookie store method here. Okay, enable a persistent store. There's no cookies stored. And I have to add another feature. So I need a client builder. Instead, I was just getting a client. So I have to go back up and figure out how to get a client builder. Might just so any function that returns a client builder looks like this is the one. Makes it pretty easy. I've been mucking about today with a bunch of APIs where it's the GTK APIs where it is easy once you know the right place to look. I'm just really surprised that this was the right place to look immediately. So we create a client builder. We're going to build. I don't care about errors. I can't imagine what errors would occur here. And then in between creating the builder and actually instantiating the client with the build command, I need to enable the cookie store. And then set the persistent cookie store for the client. So I need to give it one. No cookie store is used, requires the optional cookies. So let's take a look at cookie store. Okay. This one's pretty easy. Well, except that this is a trait. Implementers. So the jar is the implementer. What is the jar? Okay, here we go. And I want to add cookie string format. Add cookie stir. Wait, that was it right there, wasn't it? Yeah. So I need to give it a string. And then I need to give it a URL. So ampersand format session equals followed by the session cookie. So here I'm just formatting basically session equals whatever I have stored in this cookie, or in this this variable, which I got from the standard environment, and I need to give it a URL. So let the URL equal oops. I don't know how specific it needs to be, so I'm just going to assume that I can go with the top level domain. So far, so good. Everything formats. So the cookie store has been enabled, but I need to actually give it the cookie provider. And that's going to be this jar, which needs to be an arc, which std sync arc. Okay, not terrible yet. So if we come down to the request, we've got the client with get. This gives a request builder. We need to now send the request. Send gives us a future, so I'm going to await that. And at least for this moment, I don't care about errors, so those are fine to just panic. And now I want the body. This is no longer just getting a request. This is just getting the board, just the full text of it, and retrieving the body is another async operation. So we're going to await that. Let me check my data type here. Board unknown. Body may not actually exist. So let's go looking for the response data type here. And yeah, we are getting right up at 1 hour, so I'm going to not spend more than a couple more minutes on this. Oh, body is the wrong function. It's text that I want. And I'm concerned about the fact that Rust Analyzer or the linter isn't flagging anything. Probably that means that somewhere in the background the compiler is screaming at me. Or it would be if I were running it. Let's find out what happens. Oh, wow. No, cargo isn't even happy. Why do I need pkg config? Oh, OpenSSL. Okay. Yep. The linter was not even running. So line 3 could not find main in Tokyo. Well, that's fun. That's fun. Okay, looks like I am not going to finish this tonight. We're at 10 o'clock. Looks like I've got several bugs that I'm going to need to resolve, and most of them are not going to be interesting to resolve on screen, but I will finish this up and be sure to post this as well. And so that's going to be it for tonight. If you like this, let me know. Comment on YouTube with anything that you think could be better. Obviously, I need to organize this a bit better because I stumbled quite a bit through it, but it's a lot of just casually writing code and learning things as we go. I don't know what the topic for next week will be, but if I don't come up with something really interesting, then it may just be the most interesting of the Advent of Code problems thus far on Saturday night. In any case, that is it for tonight. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you in a week.